This show is produced by Resilient New Media, where your message matters.
We're so scared that we're going to be judged out there. So we just perform, perform, perform. Our amygdala doesn't function on a calendar or logic. It doesn't say, oh, it's over now. We can stop, being in fear and we can stop high performing because the crisis is over. It's going to keep going because we have trained it that way.
Resilience is the armor, leadership is the weapon, and legacy is the monument. Welcome to Kim Talks Leadership and Legacy, profiling the elite speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs making a global impact through their messages, uncovering their vision, capturing their strategies, and helping you build a sustainable ecosystem. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Let's define your legacy. All right, welcome back. Did you know that some of the people who look the strongest on the outside are actually carrying the deepest pain? What would you do if a single knock at your door changed everything you knew about your life? Today's guest, Karen Peters of Karen Michelle Speaks, lived that reality. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I am looking forward to this because as somebody who I actually look for young overachievers, multi-talented individuals, I see the challenges that some of them face when life comes along and it's not easy out there. Let's talk about, before everything changed for you. Can we go in the Wayback Machine? What did life look like of Karen from the outside?
Well, from the outside, you would think we had everything perfect. And that's why now I call it veneer perfection, because I wanted everybody to think we had everything perfect. I wanted everybody to think we had this ideal image. And I mean, really, there was a lot of stressors in the house. I had a kid, one with kind of special needs and just a whole family dynamic to begin with is stressful, but you want everybody to see this perfect image of you. So on Facebook, we always looked perfect, looked like we were always going to these grand things and we were always matching. Like my boys matched every day. And we just looked like this picture perfect family that you would see sitting on the pew at church. And it's just like, oh, there's the Peters. They got it all together. They volunteer for everything. They teach at the school. They're involved in the community. Look how smart their boys are. I mean, it was just like, everybody wanted to be us. We walked in the room and they wanted to be our friends. They wanted to be part of our group. And I was like, yeah, this is us. We're so great. And it was just veneer perfection. Now I look back at it and I guess I kind of knew it then, but in my mind, it was perfection to me. I was like, oh, yes, we're so great. But now looking back, I was like, gosh, that was so fake. It was just veneers. It was just this pretty coating that everybody could see on Facebook and a little bit of times when we're in the community. But inside the walls of the home, it's just like chaos constantly and exhaustion, just total exhaustion performing. And so when I say I talk to the overachievers, the high function adults, it's the high performers because we want to perform. We have it all together in this perfect world because we wouldn't want anybody to think less of us or we tie our worth to it, our value. I did. I tied my worth to it. Some people tie their worth to money. Mine was my image. And so, yeah.
I get it. How many people, what percentage of population do you think is living within that space right now?
Just watching the students nowadays because of social media and the competitiveness, like they were competitive before, but now people can actually see, like parents are posting, I got accepted in this school or my kid did this. It's like, oh gosh, I got to make sure I do really good because I'm going to be compared out there. So the numbers are increasing. I would say before social media, we had our high functioning and wanted the image to look good and all that stuff, but it wasn't like now. And even with adults, in our 40s and 50s who got more into the social media, well, any age, but I'm just saying when the turn came, when like Facebook came out and so it's that group, I would say, 55 and younger really got into the whole Well, let me post, let me show my image, and our young adults are really suffering from it because their parents are posting about it. And I was guilty. I was one of those parents, and my kids are competing because they're like, oh, geez, you're going to post this. So I better do really good. Anyways, I know that was just like way off
No, I
tangent
get
there,
it. I
but
I would agree. I would agree. Social media has lent something to the pretense. Do you think a lot of moms are living competitively or living the life they wish they had lived through their children, and then that's why they're posting it?
absolutely. I always say so many of these parents are living vicariously through their children. I had, when my kids were in elementary, there was this mom and she goes, I feel like I'm just in fourth grade again with all this stuff. I'm like, well, you shouldn't feel like you're in fourth grade again, but they're living through their kids to make sure they're involved in all the clubs, being the popular one, being the in crowd, being having the best birthday parties. And I know because I'm one of these parents. If I had a daughter, it would have been even worse. Probably I had sons and they're a little bit less competitive than those female students. But it is definitely the parents are trying to relive their childhood and like what they didn't have, they want their kids to have. And now there's just so much more abundance, with credit cards and social media. It's like we're going to charge the most and look the best. No matter what debt we have, our children are going to shine and have everything they possibly want, but then it does instill into the child, I gotta be perfect. All we're doing is instilling perform, 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 show the community we're great. Like, not even just the community, show the world, whoever wants to look us up and our families from states away and their children. And it's just one big competition now, which really builds up that veneer perfection. I mean, I would say we're at least over 75% minimum that people are really caring about what other people think and basing their decisions every day based on what someone else might say or might think or what they think somebody else wants them to do. And that's where I was. It took after what happened to me, took years for me to say, why am I performing for everyone else and not living for me? Because there's so many things on my calendar that I was like, I don't even want to do any of this stuff, but I'm missing out on stuff that would be fun. But I signed up for all this other stuff because I'm basing my life on what I think others want or what's going to make me look the strongest, most resilient, especially after what my episode that happened in 2018. It was like I had a whole new performance going on. I performed from veneer perfection, the performing that thinking everything was perfect, to performing fine. I'm going to show I'm strong. I'm going to show our family's still together. I mean, I end up getting a divorce, but my kids are still great. Like, this is not affecting them. Like, don't not put them in the in crowd because they have this little stain on their home life now. And the biggest problem, what I realized years later, I was like, oh my gosh, when the news broke, I don't know how we want to go into
We're
this.
gonna go
Yeah.
into it, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna guide you through this because I really okay, so we're gonna go into what happened and how all of it evolved, but I wanna set kind of a framework here. So when people understand that yes, the catalyst was your own personal story. However, you have the credentials and the education, and you've worked in a system as a counselor. You have spent decades helping other people navigate these situations, right? Can you give us a little bit of pre-frame as to kind of your credentials and background within counseling, the school counseling space, and your observations there?
Yeah, so I just finished up my 26th year in education. So I was a teacher before I became a counselor, but I really felt like a counselor to those students. And that's what actually motivated me to go get my master's and get into counseling because they would all come to my room during lunch or after school and just needed someone. And I would see the different issues that was going on with these students. And it has changed. It has morphed through the years. I started in 2000 and there was no social media, there was no smartphones. There were like the sliders, the cell phones, but the kids really didn't have a cell phone. And if they did, it kind of came around more 2003, 2004 that they would have like flip phones, but it really was just to make a call. So I've seen the progression of the students' anxiety levels build up because of the pressure that has gone on to them because of the phones is a big catalyst for them. And so at the beginning, it was like the kids just need a friend. Like they were just not like I was a teacher, like a friend, but someone to talk to. Their parents were fighting or they weren't getting along with their sibling. I mean, it was just like basic home life stuff. It wasn't academic. Like they didn't feel like that pressure academic. But once social media started hitting, especially Snapchat in like 2016, like Instagram was like 2013 with Snapchat, the kids were so fearful that people were taking pictures of them and sharing them and then they disappear and like their anxiety of coming to school and fearful that they had to be perfect because they didn't know who was recording them, who was taking a picture of them, who was posting about them behind their back. And there was cyberbullying went through the roof during that time. And the girls were the meanest to each other.
The fact that our young people no longer dance, our Gen Z and our younger people, they're not going to clubs, they're not dancing. And dancing, I don't know about you, and I'm horrible at dancing, horrible, but nobody had video of it.
Mhm.
And so we're not even giving them a break in a safe space to go and just be weird, be crazy, release that energy, jump up and down, the whole breakfast club mosh pit kind of concept. And that is I think that there's something brewing. I think there's something brewing. I think the pressure is brewing and some are breaking and some are blowing up. And you've actually been going through that catalyst moment, right?
Mhm.
So the doorbell ring. Let's go through this. You describe a single doorbell ring as the moment everything changed without discussing anything that you're uncomfortable with. And I think you're fairly transparent.
Mhm.
Can you take us through back to that moment and take us through the catalyst that has put you on this journey of, you know what? I've done 26 years in education. I love what I do, but I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to learn how to put all the pieces together and step out onto the stage and take this to a larger audience.
Is between the doorbell and watching more of the students start having anxiety more about academic pressures and those high functioning and so that's really is what pushed me. I need to get this message out and really push to people they need to start living for themselves and not everyone else. But so that doorbell moment, so here's the exact details. I was in the back bedroom and it's Halloween time. So it's in October and so my kids are sixth grade and eighth grade at the time. And the sixth graders, the elementary kids, they go booing. They boo each other and like leave candy and ring the doorbell and run off. And anyway, so my sixth grader son, he was 11 at the time, and he was on FaceTime with a friend. And she was like, "Oh, I just got booed." And so the doorbell rang. And so Kyle, my son, thought he was getting booed. So he runs to the door. No, it's like SWAT team, and it's all these officers with the shields and lining down our driveway. I mean, they were all over, just the street had police cars all down it, and this is what my 11-year-old opened the door to. And he comes back to the room and he says, "The police are at the door." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So anyways, go and they take away at the time my husband. So he was charged with sexual assault of a minor. A girl was coming forward 19 years later. So it was before my ex now even him and I even met. So this is prior to that. And all of a sudden my eighth grader can't stop crying. My sixth grader is just in shock and his friend is on FaceTime witnessing this. I mean, I can't even comprehend to get him off that thing. Like I can't believe what is happening. Like they didn't even let my ex like get his shoes or anything. It's like, you go. And I didn't even realize at that point, I mean, how much my world would change. So it was upsetting. I couldn't believe this was happening, but it really took for when he got on the news. When it hit the news, teacher arrested for sexual assault of a minor, and all of a sudden everybody knew what was happening. Because at that time, no one knew what happened except for the people on the block, all my neighbors, texting what's going on, but nobody knew. It's kind of like back in the 1950s. It was just kind of right there.
Yeah.
And then when it hit the news the next day, we get this report. We went to an attorney and then we got this report saying that Arlington PD and Arlington ISD, the school district we worked for, signed a press release and that it's going to be on the 4 o'clock news. And it still didn't hit me, the impact of this. But when it hit the news, I could not stop crying. I was crying and crying. I wasn't even crying when he got arrested. I was crying when it hit the news. And it wasn't even about what was going on. It was my image was tainted now. I was so that's what bothers me now looking back. I was like, I was more upset about what people were going to think in my image than actually what was freaking happening. I mean, I I couldn't even believe what I thought at the time, but I did because I was so wound up in that veneer perfection. I didn't want anybody to think less of us. We are supposed to be the it couple and family in this community that, teaches all these people's kids and volunteer at everything and teach the Sunday school lessons together. That was us. And now it is blown. I mean, my husband was even like scoutmaster. I mean, like we were very involved and I couldn't even handle that people were gonna see this, that now we're not that family anymore that people would look up to. And so I just cried and cried. I mean, like, I couldn't stop crying for days. And my ex at the time, he didn't cry at all. Like, we get him out of jail and it hits the news, we go to the attorney and he hits the news and nothing. And me, I just couldn't even stop. And then I didn't even realize the ramifications. So like or what was going to happen next, the domino effect that would even happen from this, because we had this friend a few days later bring us all these groceries and she's like, we took up a collection for y'all and got you all these groceries and these gift cards. And I was like, what? We're not needy. Like we're fine, And oh, I didn't realize he's being let go of his job. You can't get arrested for this and keep a teaching certificate, working with young students. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're on one income. We're on my income only. It's like people thought about all these things, but I'm so stuck in my image and like, we're perfect. We're okay. We're okay.
Honestly, I have to say, I'm actually surprised that that people stepped up because so often we see people step away,
Hmm.
right? Because they don't want to be part of something that they don't know which way it's going to go.
They were being there for me. I think a lot of people did turn on him immediately, but because I was such a invested factor in the community and my kids. Like, I think they were more worried about me, to be honest, and making sure that we were taken care of and my boys were taken care of.
I think, and I don't wish bad things to happen on anyone ever. However, I think that sometimes that these are the wake up calls that create the best leaders. How did your 20 years of working within the school system and seeing these behavioral patterns and then having this impact? Now let's bring it kind of all together. When did you start getting that aha moment? At what point though did you pull up the bootstraps and say, gotta make it happen? I have to figure out this for me.
Hey everyone, Kim Hayden here. You know firsthand how fast the media landscape is shifting, and honestly, just keeping up isn't enough anymore. We need to build brands that actually last. That's exactly why I've created resilientnewmedia.com, your ultimate hub for modern media strategies. And if you're ready to really level up, my ongoing 4-week masterclass is live right now, and I'm sharing the exact blueprints you need to thrive as a speaker of impact. Don't get left behind. Come build something resilient with me. Head over to masterclass.resilientnewmedia.com and let's get started together.
Absolutely. So he was on the news on a Wednesday, and I called my principal when he hit the news, and I said, I quit. I can't go back. Like, I just couldn't imagine facing these people because we worked at the same school in the same department. Our classrooms are next to each other. I mean, he was the teacher of our son and all of his friends and my niece and my nephew. And so I was like, I can't go back. I can't face these people who are going to talk about us. And she said, absolutely not. She goes, we are your family. She goes, you're going to take the rest of the week off, and then we'll see you on Monday, and you're going to come in and hold your head up high because you did nothing wrong. And that still means so much to me to this day because I would have just quit because I just, again, that veneer perfection, that image, we're more worried about the image. I wanted to run away, absolutely run away. So I went to work on Monday and went smiling every day. I mean, I even got this thing someone sent me. It's like, you just danced in the storm. Like, you did not show that you were breaking or hurting at all. You came back and was just like, well, we got a job to do. I was like, we're down to one paycheck. I can't lose my job. So, I mean, you would think that the kids, like, no one knew anything happened to me. I went in exactly the way I was supposed to be. But then I saw that I was like, okay, we're not perfect anymore, so I'm fine. I gotta be fine. Like, I don't want to put any burden on anybody for them to see that I'm not okay. I want to look strong. I want to look, resilient. I want to look like I got everything together still because I still wanted that perfect image, but I knew I couldn't use the word perfect. Now I'm fine. We're fine. And so I started volunteering for more and more stuff. I mean, all the way to painting the parking lot. I was like, oh, you need someone to do that? I'll do that. Like, I was spending, and I had to get another job because I'm down to one income. So I had two jobs. So I'm working 16 to 18 hours a day. And then any free time, joke about free time, any extra time that I'm not working, I was volunteering for all these jobs around the school and the community just to stay so busy because I needed to avoid the grief. I needed to avoid my new reality. I needed to avoid what was happening financially, emotionally, spiritually, the whole thing. And I thought if I stayed busy enough, which it did work, it did work. I was busy enough where I did avoid all that stuff, but it wasn't healthy. I didn't do anything for me. And it took me, so that aha moment, it took me, my son, my, my older son ran away his senior year. And like, we got my ex now, we got a divorce. And then my oldest ran away his senior year at the end of his senior year because he couldn't handle this life. And I was never around. I was literally working all the time. And looking back, I lost so much connection with my own kids. And I was so wanting to avoid the grief and avoiding this new reality and just stay so busy so people really couldn't talk to me or anything that I didn't think about my own two children, what they were going through, that they had to, they have this image and people were bullying them at first about their dad and making jokes about their dad. So I didn't even think about that. I didn't get them counseling help that they needed probably. I mean, well, I know they did. I literally just went into this own other world. And I even would like right before this happened, it was my 40th birthday and I threw this huge 40th birthday party for myself with all my friends and everything. I wouldn't talk to anybody afterwards. I was like, oh no, I did. At first I did, but then it was like, oh, I didn't know who I could trust and couldn't because it was like, who just wanted to find out the information so then go gossip it out to the other group and who really cared. And so I really just shut down. And so I lost connection with family, my kids, my friends. I mean, I really just went into this independent, I'm going to work all the time mode. And looking back, I'm like, why did someone not say, gosh, she went through a lot. Not only did she, have her ex now on the news and then got a divorce and then her oldest ran away. Like, we need to, really check on her. And this is like what I say, I was like, I think this now I see why people commit suicide and no one even realizes that anything was wrong because they look like they have it all together, but they're so just emotionally dying inside. And not that I was going to commit suicide, but I was emotionally dying inside. Like, I felt like, oh, I'll just work really hard. And if I die at my desk at 50, I'll die at my desk at 50. Like I didn't even care when the end of life would be. Like, I wouldn't take it myself, but I was just kind of counting down because I knew my day was so filled with things that didn't help me heal. They didn't help fulfill me at all. And so I'd wake up and be like, all right, how much longer till I can go to bed again? Like, I wasn't living and I lost 7 years. So I guess going back to the aha thing is that, so my oldest runs away and then my youngest, he's 2 years apart. So when he started his senior year, I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be gone in a year. He's going off to college. And here I am. What am I just going to work all the time? Like, I have no life. I'm going to be an empty nester. I needed to sell the house at that point because it was financially more than, unless I wanted to keep working more 2 jobs or more, picking up stuff. I was like, do I keep living this or do I start making a life for myself? And so I said, I need to get myself together. And so I guess my aha was my son was going to leave. And I realized I did nothing fun. I'd watch my friends go out and they're like, you're going to go here? Do you want to go to this? And at first it was really hard because when you're married, you have a married identity and you have your married friends, especially when you're married for 20 years and your kids all grow up together. And so, but then when you're single, you don't really fit in with that group anymore, especially when your kids get older. If your kids are smaller, you do because they want to, help protect you and your kid. But once your kids grow up, it's like, oh no, we don't want the single lady around all of us married people. So
Yep.
it
Well,
it's a
and you
whole
have
new
less in
identity.
common. You have less in
Absolutely.
common, right? You no longer have a team effort at life, right? It's you. You've got to carry the entire ball game on your own, right? And I think there's a huge fear, right? In the sense that, crap, it's just me.
Okay, so it took 8 months, like, even though he graduated from the school that I worked at, he did not want me to be part of his graduation, his prom, like, I missed out at the end of his senior year because he was 18 and he said he was an adult and leaving, and he couldn't handle that I wanted him to help out around the house because, you going back to the now you're single and everything's on you. And we had a house with all these trees. And so the leaves would come, like, I need help with the lawn. No, like it was just like he was so resistant to helping. He was for the divorce. It wasn't like he was angry with me for it, but he didn't realize what that really entailed and how much dad did around the house. And so I expected him to pick that up and he was like, "Oh, I'm not doing that." So he agrees now he was being selfish and he was being a child and he's 21 now. He's still a child. We did like we went out last Friday. He moved to Las Vegas, but
My
he
gosh, that's where I moved when I went to start my journey of growing up when I was 19 years of age.
well that
So,
he was about 19 when he moved out there. So he's been
yeah,
out there for a while and it was good for me to have him away so he can grow because if he was here, I think I would want to be more
exactly.
involved. And so that was good. So he was smart on that part, to create some distance so he could have more independence. But the way he handled it his senior year, he does recognize that was not the correct way, but it was hurtful because well, obviously hurtful, but it was, it hurt more than the case because I felt like I just lost a husband and now I lost a son. It
Yeah,
was
my
like a death.
kids, the kids, don't get me wrong, love my husband, but at the end of the day, it's my kids are my legacy. They are the most important thing to me, and if anything jeopardizes that, what I would love to do is you have a couple different things that you have developed and what I want to do is imagine someone listening today and they recognize themselves in this conversation. They could be right now sitting in that doorbell moment, right? So let's go through this and first of all, what's the first sign that somebody can identify that they're actually living in that survival mode. They're living in that moment of busy happiness. The veneer is falling off, right? What's a sign that you can recognize within yourself?
Well, the biggest thing is look at your calendar. Look what's on your daily event calendar and say, what is this on here that is to help me, to help my healing or something for me? Or even you can look at a week at a time, but just like, what are we doing for ourselves? Because when I looked at my calendar, everything was for everybody else. And it wasn't for my own kids or my mom or, a family member. It was serving just so I could have this worth and value. Like I needed to hear, you're doing so good. You're so strong. Thank you. You're amazing because it brought worth to me that I felt like I lost. And so people really need to step back and say, hold on, something big did happen to me, you know? And it's not, yes, mine was extreme. I always say mine was extreme, but that feeling is not. People through divorce, betrayal, job loss, health diagnosis, any single moment that changes your life overnight or even within a month, like something that happens. And it's like, oh gosh, that is huge. What I woke up thinking I knew my day was going to be, I wake up the next day and it's totally different. I thought my ex and I would just be going to work the next day together. I didn't realize he would never be at that school again. Like, even for my kids' events, the police had to escort him in, and then he could watch, but then he had to leave. Like, he couldn't stay around for pictures and that kind of stuff. I mean, it got better after, the deal he could come watch our kids. But at the beginning, it was like, oh, and when I cleaned out his classroom, I had him on FaceTime, but it was like he died and I'm cleaning out his office. I mean, because he can't even be there to tell me what am I taking? What am I not taking? Like, it's so surreal. You just don't think Monday you go to work together and then Tuesday he's going to be arrested, Wednesday's on the news, and Saturday you're cleaning out an office. Like, it's unfathomable. But like I said, mine's extreme, but people all the time. I have a friend right now who she called me and she said, my husband just texted me saying he filed for a divorce. Like, he's leaving the courthouse. She had no idea. She had no idea. She goes, now I'm listening to your content because I post stuff on, Instagram or YouTube and TikTok. And she goes, I so relate to it. She goes, now I see it. She goes, I would listen to it like, oh, okay, that's cool. Karen's saying that. But until you experience one of those life altering moments, you don't really understand. But there's so many people who have experienced those moments. So sorry, I got a little sidetracked there, but it's
No, I get it.
anybody who has those moments, you gotta be aware and be like, hold on, I really did experience something. And my coping mechanism, see, that's the problem with coping mechanisms. If you're not doing sex, drugs, and alcohol or overly shopping, which even that's kind of secretive, if you don't have something that outwardly people are like, oh my gosh, they're really struggling, like that have these signs of help me, then people pass on and say, they're just so amazing. Like, she went through all of that and look at her come up to work and volunteer for all this stuff. And her kids are involved in all this. And then even after the one kid leaves, like, oh, look how great the other kid is and look how great they are. No one questions and says, she went through a lot. She lost a husband. She lost a child and she's still doing all this. That's a red flag. Like, oh my gosh, she is on the brink of a mental disaster, emotional disaster. And there's so many people like that because we want to stay strong and we don't want people to judge us. We're so scared that we're going to be judged out there. So we just perform, perform, perform. That's what we do. And that is our coping mechanism. And we don't listen to our nervous system. We don't listen to our amygdala, because our amygdala doesn't function on a calendar or logic. It doesn't say, it's over now. We can stop, being in fear, and we can stop, high performing because the crisis is over. It's going to keep going because we have trained it that way. Well, we have not trained it that way, but because we keep going off that way and living in survival mode, our amygdala thinks, oh, we got to keep going. This is what we got to keep doing. And our coping mechanism. So we really have to be aware, is our coping mechanism keeping us in survival mode? And mine was. And that's what so many of us do. This high functioning veneer perfection, veneer performance is keeping us in survival mode. So our first step to safety, the safety of our nervous system, is we have to be aware of our surroundings. We got to be aware of what's going on and question, are we doing something that's going to help us? We went through a traumatic event. Are we reading a book to help us? Are we listening to a podcast today? Are we taking a walk, exercise? I started exercising and it started with just like baby yoga, well, like walking and then like, getting in yoga a little bit. And now I'm a certified yoga and Pilates instructor because learning how to deep breathe, learning how to move your body, mobility is not about strength. Strength is important, but having that mobility and that regulation of your nervous system, so people don't have to be like, if I'm going to get better, I got to start running or something. It's not like that. It is doing something for you internally so it can match what you're trying to perform externally. That's what we want. And you got to start with the steps of being aware. What are our coping mechanisms? Are they keeping us stuck? We got to have emotional safety before we process. Like we got to have our nervous system feel safe before we can process what happened emotionally, because there's so many different examples of, people use the word triggers and And I used to think, oh, that's so overused, or it's such a, like, this word that came out of the blue so much after COVID, especially with the students. But then when you get into something or you see something happen, you do feel triggered. And I have felt it. Like, and once I felt it, I was like, I became such a better counselor, just to let you know, after this whole event.
So create awareness. Let's just take one thing, one learning thing that we can go deep on. Check your calendar. And
Mhm.
if your calendar doesn't have, should we be allocating to ourselves? 30 minutes a day? An hour a day?
At least an hour a day of, exercising, either reading, podcast, something that's self-enrichment towards healing, or time for yourself. And I tell people, you got to block it off. Like, you put on your calendar that you have to volunteer as something. That was me. And I go, why can't I put on my calendar I need self-maintenance time?
So
Like,
book time with yourself. So treat yourself as
book,
a
podcast, working
valued.
out, walking. I stopped wearing an Apple Watch. That's one of my videos that I talk about because it was controlling me. I always tell people, I go, what is controlling you? And an Apple Watch controlled me because I'd have it on and I felt like I had to answer everybody's text calls because I wanted to feel important. I wanted to make sure I was doing everything high standard and no one thought less of me. But I ran the social media for my school. I was the go-to because I've been at that school for decades. I was at the same school for 21 years, so everybody knew I knew everything. And so a lot of parents, the community, everybody would rely on me. And I just felt like I lived by that watch, and I gave up sleep. I gave up time. Anyway, so going back to what people need when they're aware, they need to make sure they are giving themselves at least 1 hour of self-maintenance time. It's like, put on that oxygen mask for yourself before you can help others. I mean, there is a huge underlying meaning to that. You say we use it, we use it on an airplane and stuff, but really, I was giving myself to everybody else. I wasn't putting that oxygen mask on myself, and I was dying. Everybody else was thriving and I was dying, and emotionally, not, physically. Well, probably physically, because I wasn't taking care of myself very well either. So making that time for yourself and making your time for sleep. Turn off the phone, turn off the watch, turn it off. Dis- Disconnect from all that and make sure you're getting your sleep, because that is what's going to keep the chronic trauma from festering. Not just sleep, but taking that time for yourself. So I talk about acute trauma versus chronic trauma. Acute is, we got to get to the storm. There's a storm. We got to go through it and get the help we need, but get through it. The pain's not going to go away. It's not going to minimize the pain, but we're going to get to the other side. So we start living our new identity quicker. But me, I was chronic trauma, not sleeping, not taking care of myself. I mean, I'm going around the storm constantly. I'm like, oh, there's the storm. Oh, well, we'll just avoid that today again. We're just going to take the long way around and just keep avoiding it. But eventually, that storm's just going to keep following you till you have to go through it, because you're never going to get around it. It's too big. It's too big. So you have to start, like I said, doing stuff for yourself. And so awareness is number one. And looking at those coping mechanisms, that's number two. It's like, check out those coping mechanisms and ask yourself, are they keeping you stuck, or are they moving you forward? Are you just functioning today? Are you feeling? I went 6 years without crying, Kim. 6 years. I cried and cried and cried once it hit the news, and then it stopped one day. In November 2018, it just stopped. And it took last year until I finally cried for the first time. And I'd even say, I have no feelings. I go, I don't even know if my mom passed away tomorrow, if I would cry. Like, I really started questioning. I just didn't even know. Even when my oldest ran away, I still didn't cry. I was just like so hardened in some ways. It was like the emotional factor, the crying, the numbness just took over, and that made it so much worse. But because it just felt pain, but I couldn't release anything. It was like, "Oh, I better volunteer for something else. I better keep myself busy happiness in another way, because I can't face that pain. That pain's even worse than the other pains. So I'm going to volunteer for more stuff." I mean, it was ridiculous, the cycle I was in, and I didn't even see it. But so then I started doing stuff for myself, started working out, learning new breathing techniques, talking to people who I did trust, like trying to reconnect those relationships, like sincere relationships. Anyways, and it just totally rebuilds. I mean, anyways, yeah,
I
it's
get
just
it.
so much. You can tell I'm passionate about this. I want
No,
to just
no,
help these people.
and that's why people like you need to have the stage, need to have a voice, because there are so many people that are going through this quietly on their own, and
Hmm.
and they don't feel safe stepping out, speaking up. And I think I commend you for that, because a lot of people won't. Here's a question. I'm going to put it out there. We're going to plant a seed. If you had a podcast, what would you name it? Who would be your first guest? No limits, but they have to be alive today.
Okay. So I have thought about this, and it's like, is it surviving to thriving? Is it living authentically? And I learned one thing I have learned with Kim is that people like you so much better if you're authentic more than perfect. Like,
Oh, yes, yes. Progress over perfection every day. That's actually been my mantra my entire life.
yeah, I mean, it's just huge. I was like, wow, like people, I mean, people like being around me before, but when I was being more authentic and real and raw this last year, it's like, we really like you because you seem like you have it all together. So they're like nervous to say anything that might be wrong in their life. They're like, oh, well, if she can go through all that and look at everything she's doing, we're not going to look bad to her. It's like, it's just kind of weird the things I've learned. So it would, the cost of being fine, I've thought about that because it cost me years of my life and
That's a
time and
good
connection.
one. I like that one.
And
I like that one.
I really thought about that because a lot of people use the surviving to thriving or, the authenticity, but the cost of being fine, because when I go back and reflect, I think about what I lost during that time. And it wasn't just a husband and a child. Like I said, it was connection. I lost money, even though I was working all the time, but it wasn't. I was the house. I just kind of let that build up. I mean, there's just different things because I was just such an avoidance mode. And I think we really need to look at what was the cost of being fine, like
Who would
not
be your
happy.
who would be your first guest?
I have so many friends. I mean, like I said, I just feel like I have so many that I want this message to get to, and even students, I want this message to get to. I know this seems pretty recent, but probably my friend whose husband filed for divorce because she just started volunteering for all this stuff. She took on all this stuff, and her kids are younger than my kids. And I talked to her. I said, "Hey, what are you doing today? What are you doing for yourself today?" And she's like, "Oh, I'll get to that, but I got all this I got to do. I got this." And I was like, "Well, you didn't have that 2 weeks ago, but now we have all this." So I mean, she would be one.
I, yep. Well, Karen, you are a rock star, and I am looking forward to seeing the opportunities to hear you present in person, and, looking for the opportunities of learning more from you on your journey, because not everybody goes through what you've gone through, but they're going through trauma like anyways, and
Hmm.
having somebody that can work through it and be able to put a voice to it, be able to quantify it so we can understand it better. If
Hmm.
your calendar doesn't have, now you had an hour today listening to this, and I thank you. Good job. But if you're not investing in yourself on a daily basis, I want you to go to calendar, block an hour, block some time. Even if you just sit in a quiet space with a great cup of tea and some good music, and you just close your eyes and give a moment to yourself, because we're all showing up in any way, shape, or form. And you need to show up for yourself. So right now, go check your calendar. That's your task today. Find out if you've got time booked in for yourself. And again, thank you for joining us. All of Karen's information, her website, KarenMichelleSpeaks.com. Everything will be in the show notes. You can go over to KimTalkCast.com and check out our guest directory, and you'll see the connections right in there. You know what? Go check your calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping into the studio with us today on Kim Talks Leadership and Legacy. If today's profile and strategy showcase gave you that just one thing you need to scale yourself, your family, or your business, Don't let the momentum stop here. Take action now. Hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Share this episode with a speaker, coach, or founder who is ready to step into the bigger stage and amplify their message. And remember to visit us at kimtalkspodcast.com to unlock resources and discover our next events. Until next time, keep leading with execution, protect your ecosystem, and keep building a legacy that outlasts the daily grind. We'll see you on the next episode.